Picture this. It is August 1st, 2024.
Right in the peak of a brutal California summer.
Exactly. Just, triple-digit heat. And you're standing near this secluded loading dock, tucked behind a waste management company in Fresno.
Not exactly a scenic spot.
No, not at all. It's this industrial dead zone, filled with massive dumpsters, chain-link fences, and there, face down in the thick, dry dirt, surrounded by discarded trash, is a 30-year-old man named Spencer Irwin.
Wow.
And he is completely naked.
It's just a stark, really unsettling image.
It is.
But, what transforms this from just a tragedy into a profound systemic failure is the sequence of events that unfolds, or I should say, fails to unfold, the moment the authorities arrive on that scene.
Right, and that is exactly what we're getting into today. In this deep dive, we're going through a stack of investigative notes, forensic reports, and raw true crime transcripts surrounding Spencer's death.
It's a heavy one.
It really is. Our mission here is to piece together a perplexing mystery that local authorities, frankly, initially refused to even touch.
Yeah.
We are looking at the anatomy of an assumption. We're going to explore the cascading effects of a flawed investigation and what happens when a grieving mother is forced to step into the void and become a real-life criminal investigator just to find justice for her son.
Which is something no mother should ever have to do. But it really is a masterclass in how cognitive bias can derail an inquiry before the crime scene tape even goes up.
Oh, absolutely.
When we analyze all this source material, the chain of events following the discovery of Spencer's body, it reveals a lot about the massive blind spots in local death investigations.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the initial response from the police really dictates the trajectory of this entire case.
It sets the tone for everything.
Right. So when the police and the crime scene unit arrive at that waste company, witnesses report that they don't even drive all the way back to where Spencer's body is lying.
You're kidding?
Nope. They park in a distance, they take one look at his location and, his lack of clothing, and they just immediately label Spencer a transient. They assume he was unhoused, they assume he stripped down due to a drug overdose, and they essentially just call it a day.
So they just constructed a narrative right there on the spot.
Totally.
I mean, they didn't process the immediate dirt around him.
No.
They didn't canvass for his clothes.
Nothing. Didn't collect any physical evidence.
That is, they looked at the environment, applied a stereotypic template of an overdose, and just let that bias dictate their protocol.
And that snap judgment, it leads to this irreversible loss of evidence. Because the coroner's office releases Spencer's body to his mother, Kelly.
Right.
And because he was found out in that triple-digit summer heat, his body was in an advanced state of decomposition.
Which is horrific for a family to deal with.
It is. The funeral home actually advised Kelly not to view him, to spare her that final mental image. So trusting the authorities, the family decides to have Spencer cremated.
Makes sense under the circumstances.
But here is the kicker. The coroner's office released him without ever performing an autopsy.
Oh, wow. Which means the most critical piece of physical evidence in any death investigation, the biological record of the body itself, is permanently destroyed.
Exactly. And I have to pause on that because the mechanics of this are just baffling to me. How is it officially possible for law enforcement to declare a cause of death, like specifically an overdose, before the toxicology results even come back from the lab?
I know, it defies all logical scientific practice. But it is a known vulnerability in how death investigations are structured in many parts of the United States.
How so?
Well, it comes down to the difference between a medical examiner and a coroner. The sources we're looking at note that the Fresno sheriff coroner at the time, a guy named John Zanoni, has absolutely no medical training.
Wait, none at all?
None.
How does someone get that job without a medical background?
He holds a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and a minor in agriculture business.
An agriculture minor.
Yeah. He's a career law enforcement officer. And that happens because in many jurisdictions, coroners are elected political officials. They aren't medical doctors or forensic pathologists.
That is wild.
It really is. The coroner system actually dates back to English common law, where the crowner was just a local official who collected taxes on dead bodies for the king.
You're joking.
No, seriously. And over centuries, it just evolved into a bureaucratic role. So when police say, we suspect an overdose, an elected coroner without a medical background might just sign off on that hunch rather than challenging the detectives and demanding a costly autopsy.
Wow. Put yourself in Kelly's shoes for a second. You were devastated.
Yeah.
The people wearing the badges, The supposed experts are telling you with absolute certainty what happened.
You believe them.
Right. You trust them. Most
Yeah.
people have no idea that the coroner isn't a doctor, let alone that, like, private autopsy services like 1-800-UTOP-EY even exist for moments when families doubt an official ruling.
And that misplaced trust really delayed the truth here because Kelly knew her son. She knew Spencer was not a hard drug user. He was very open with her about his struggles with alcohol. He was actually in a period of recurrence and was actively trying to get into a rehabilitation facility.
Yeah, he drank at home to self-medicate. He wasn't out doing street narcotics.
Exactly. So she just waits for those tox screens to come back just to see the science behind the police's certainty.
And when those results finally arrive, weeks after Spencer has already been cremated, the overdose narrative completely crumbles.
Completely falls apart.
There are absolutely no illegal drugs in his system. No meth, no lethal doses of anything, just a very low alcohol level of 0.03, and some minor non-lethal prescription medications, primarily gabapentin.
Which, that is a crucial pharmacological detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, because gabapentin is an anticonvulsant and nerve pain medication, but it is very frequently prescribed off-label to help manage the symptoms of alcohol withdrawal.
Oh, interesting.
It calms the central nervous system. So its presence in his blood strongly supports Kelly's timeline, that Spencer was actively trying to detox safely and get clean.
That makes the official response even more frustrating. Because now the coroner's office is trapped.
Right.
They can't prove an overdose, but they also don't have a body anymore to look for other causes. So they do. They just pivot.
Just change the story.
Yep. They change the official ruling to natural causes and list the cause of death as probable sudden cardiac death, citing his history of alcohol use. And the police officially close the case.
It's just a textbook example of confirmation bias.
Right.
Once the toxicology disproved their first theory, instead of, reopening the investigation and looking at the scene with fresh eyes, they simply found a new biological excuse to justify closing the file.
It's like trying to draw a bullseye around an arrow after it's already landed.
Yes.
You're just trying to make the facts fit your initial assumption.
Yeah.
You ignore the fact that the edges don't fit at all, and instead of looking for the right answer, you just smash it into place. You can say you're done.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. I mean, sudden cardiac death might explain a sudden collapse, sure, but it completely ignores the situational forensics.
Exactly.
If his heart just stopped, why was he found completely naked, hiding behind dumpsters miles from his apartment? Natural causes don't undress you and transport you to an industrial loading dock.
Which brings us to the turning point. Since the authorities won't look into how he got there, Kelly does.
He has to.
She steps in and builds a timeline. She learns that Spencer had visited the hospital days prior to detox safely, waiting for a bed in rehab. And she actually pulls security footage from his apartment building.
Doing the police's job for them.
Literally.
Yeah.
So on Sunday, July 28th at 8:00 a.m., Spencer is captured on camera leaving his apartment. He's wearing jeans, a white shirt, a black hat, and he's carrying a black backpack. He's walking toward a Verizon store about 4 miles away because his phone had been glitching and he needed it for his online college classes.
What's fascinating here is just the power of a mother's intuition versus bureaucratic inertia. Because the employees at that Verizon store confirm he never arrived.
Never made it.
And this is where the contrast in investigative urgency becomes so stark. We know the first 48 hours of an investigation are critical.
Right. Evidence disappears.
Evidence degrades, physical clues wash away, security systems record over themselves. And here we have a mother stepping into the shoes of a detective, retracing steps weeks after the trail has gone freezing cold, performing the basic canvass that the authorities completely neglected.
And amazingly, she actually finds a thread. She drives out to the waste company where Spencer was found. She surveys the industrial lot, spots security cameras on the neighboring buildings, and just starts knocking on doors.
That takes so much courage.
And most of these businesses have systems that overwrite every 24 hours. But one business manager checks their hard drive and finds they still have the footage.
Oh my God.
So Kelly sits down and scrubs through hours of motion-activated video. And she finds this chilling sequence.
Finding any footage that late in the game is an incredible stroke of luck, or really just sheer determination. What did the cameras actually capture?
So the camera points at one of the entrance gates to this U-shaped lot around the waste building. The timestamp reads just after 10:00 p.m. on Monday, July 29th.
Okay, and remember, Spencer disappeared on the morning of the 28th.
Exactly. A car pulls through the open gate. And right as it drives into the lot, the driver turns off the headlights.
Which is a deliberate evasive maneuver. You don't kill your lights in a pitch-black industrial lot unless you are trying to remain unseen.
The car disappears into the dark lot for about 15 minutes. Then it pulls back out and leaves the exact way it came. And shortly after that, the camera catches a blurry figure standing alone in the dark by the front of the building before walking off in the opposite direction.
So we basically have a vehicle entering a secluded area under the cover of darkness, staying just long enough to potentially unload something or someone, and then leaving.
Yep. Now, you can't read the license plate on the footage, but the car itself is highly distinctive. It's a boxy white Kia Soul.
Okay.
And that footage isn't the only piece of the puzzle Kelly uncovers at that location. Days after Spencer's death, she walks the exact spot at the loading dock. And lying right there, half buried in the dirt, is a pair of patterned underwear.
You're kidding.
Spencer had dozens of pairs of this exact unique brand.
Because the crime scene unit failed to establish a proper perimeter or process the immediate area, a highly personal, crucial piece of physical evidence was just left in the dirt.
Left in the dirt. Kelly takes a photo of it. When she goes back later, the underwear has vanished.
Of course.
She notifies the police, but they don't act on it. But Kelly just keeps pushing. Her canvassing uncovers a witness who was present the morning Spencer's body was found. And this witness noticed a distinct purple mark on the back of Spencer's neck.
A mark that directly challenges the coroner's assertion of, no external trauma.
Exactly. So Kelly leverages this witness statement to force the police department to hand over the unredacted crime scene photos.
Good for her.
Because the one thing the police actually did right on day one was take high-resolution photographs before moving the body. So Kelly takes these photos to a board-certified forensic pathologist, Dr. Priya Banerjee, for an independent review.
And the forensic analysis of those photos is where the science really dismantles the initial police assumptions. I mean, Dr. Banerjee immediately focuses on the patterns in the dirt around Spencer's upper body.
Right.
She identifies what she calls snow angel marks.
Now, the police had casually theorized earlier that he might have been flailing around during a seizure or a drug overdose, kicking up the dirt.
But pathology tells a very different story. When a body experiences a seizure or an overdose convulsion, the movements are erratic, they're asymmetric, they're violent. The dirt would be kicked up chaotically, but Dr. Banerjee noted that the marks around Spencer were far too symmetrical. Symmetrical sweeping in the dirt typically indicates that a body was being deliberately dragged or positioned by the arms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it suggests manipulation of the scene, not a medical event.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And Dr. Banerjee also tackled the police's backup theory for why Spencer was naked. Because when Kelly had pressed them on the lack of clothing, assuming it wasn't an overdose, they suggested paradoxical undressing.
Which, okay, is a real documented physiological phenomenon, but the mechanics of it make it impossible in this scenario.
How so?
Well, paradoxical undressing occurs in cases of severe hypothermia. When a person is freezing to death, the body constricts blood vessels in the extremities to keep the core warm.
Right, survival mode.
Exactly. But right before death, as the muscles controlling those vessels finally exhaust and fail, they suddenly dilate. A massive rush of warm blood floods back into the skin, making the freezing person feel like they are suddenly burning up. So in their delirium, they strip off their clothes.
Right. But Spencer was found in August in Fresno, California.
Exactly. The temperature was well over 100 degrees. The physiological trigger for paradoxical undressing, that extreme core temperature drop, simply doesn't exist in a California summer. It is scientifically baseless in this context.
And then there's the neck. Dr. Banerjee zooms in on the photos and finds a distinct straight line running right under Spencer's jawline, extending straight back. Now, to maintain strict scientific objectivity, she notes it could potentially be a skin fold, resulting from the awkward position of his body in the dirt. But she states clearly that it exhibits all the visual characteristics of a ligature, mark a sign of strangulation.
And this just highlights the ultimate tragedy of the missing autopsy.
Yeah.
Because the only definitive way to differentiate a post-mortem skin fold from a perimortem ligature strangulation is by dissecting the underlying tissue of the neck to look for internal hemorrhaging.
And they can't do that now.
No. By skipping the autopsy, the system didn't just obscure the cause of death, it potentially provided cover for a homicide.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Kelly didn't stop at forensic reviews and blurry car footage, she started looking at the people in Spencer's life.
Right, the social circle.
Yeah, to figure out how he ended up in that lot, she had to look at who he was interacting with. And that brings us to two distinct persons of interest she uncovered. First, a man named Angel Gonzalez.
This is the individual Spencer met while in the detox program, right?
Right. They met on July 10th.
Yeah.
Angel was unhoused, and Spencer offered to let Angel stay at his apartment while they both waited for beds to open up in a long-term rehab facility.
Generous guy.
Very. They were actually scheduled to check into the facility together on July 29th. But on July 31st, days after Spencer disappeared, but before his body was found, Kel gets worried. She asks Spencer's landlord to do a welfare check.
And the apartment complex was part of a student housing program, which gave the landlord the authority to conduct those checks.
Exactly. So the landlord punches in the door code, walks into the seemingly empty apartment, and is just about to leave when she hears a noise in the bathroom.
Oh, creepy.
She opens the door, and Angel is hiding in there.
Wow.
He lies to the landlord, claiming to be Spencer's cousin, and says Spencer is already away at rehab, which is a blatant lie, considering they were supposed to go together and Spencer had vanished.
That is an incredibly suspicious encounter. I mean, he's occupying a missing person's apartment and lying about his identity to maintain access.
It escalates from there. After Spencer's body is discovered, his girlfriend Kate messages Angel on Facebook to see if he knows anything. Angel replies briefly, says he's too emotional to talk, promises to call the next day, and then completely ghosts her.
Just disappears.
Yep. But a few days later, Kate gets a suggested friend notification on Snapchat. The username starts with the word smiley, followed by 6 specific digits.
Now, in the digital age, a suggested friend notification isn't random. It usually means someone in your phone's contacts or someone whose phone has interacted with yours has created a new account or linked their number.
Exactly. And those 6 digits. Kelly had found Angel's discarded driver's license left behind in Spencer's apartment. His middle name includes Smiley, and those 6 digits were an exact match for his date of birth.
Oh, wow.
It's a massive digital footprint. It heavily implies that whoever was operating that Snapchat account, likely Angel, was either in possession of Spencer's missing phone or had synced data with it.
It's a brilliant piece of modern sleuthing by his mom. But Angel wasn't the only lead Kelly developed.
No, she also looked closely at a neighbor named Tyler, who goes by the nickname Happy. 2 weeks before Spencer died, Spencer confided in his mom that Tyler had broken into his apartment and stolen his laptop and PlayStation.
Did he call the cops?
No, Spencer wanted to handle it himself and hadn't reported it. But Kelly starts monitoring Facebook Marketplace. She searches Tyler's full name, and she finds an active listing posted by Tyler for a 2012 Lenovo ThinkPad.
Let me guess.
It is the exact make and model of the laptop stolen from Spencer. Spencer's father, who is an IT professional, even verified the specs from the photos.
So Kelly has compiled security footage of an evasive Kia Soul, digital footprints linking a squatter to the victim's phone, and a marketplace listing for the victim's stolen property.
Yes.
And she hand delivers this dossier to the Fresno Police Department.
And their response is just agonizing. They literally tell her they can't look into the laptop without a receipt, and they brush off the rest.
A receipt. Yeah, this is where we see the psychological mechanism of anchoring bias in full effect.
Anchoring bias.
Yeah, anchoring occurs when investigators lock onto their initial theory. In this case, the assumption of natural causes or an overdose by an unhoused person. Once anchored, any contradictory evidence isn't viewed as a breakthrough. It is viewed as an administrative nuisance.
Just a nuisance.
Right. Admitting that a mother's Facebook and Snapchat sleuthing holds value requires the department to admit their initial dismissive assessment was fundamentally wrong. It is an ego defense mechanism. It protects the institution from the embarrassment and the paperwork of reopening a closed natural death case as a complex homicide.
That makes total sense. And to take that a step further,
Yeah.
we have to look at why they anchored so quickly on day one.
Right.
It all comes down to the cognitive shortcut of stigma.
Absolutely.
Because Spencer was found naked, in the dirt, behind dumpsters, the police categorized him as a transient. By placing him in that mental box, they unconsciously assigned a lower priority to his life. They didn't see a college student taking online classes. They didn't see a son trying to get clean.
It's the human brain taking a terrible prejudice shortcut to save cognitive load. And the tragic irony of it all is that Spencer dedicated his life to breaking down those exact prejudices.
He really did.
He was part of the HOPE program at his college. He spent his time actively advocating for and assisting the unhoused population in Fresno.
Kelly actually received a Facebook message in the middle of the night, a few days after Spencer's death, from a man named Louie. Louie wrote that he used to be unhoused. and was going through a profoundly dark time.
Wow.
He met Spencer at a local park. And Spencer didn't just talk down to him. He brought him food, brought him clean clothes, and treated him like a peer.
That's amazing.
Louis wrote to Kelly, "One of the reasons I made it through was because of people like him who treated me so well and pushed me to make things better." Spencer literally saved a life just by showing someone basic human dignity.
The contrast is just striking. The police looked at Spencer's location and saw a label. Louis looked at Spencer and saw a lifeline.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a sobering reminder of how easily systems designed to protect the public can fail the moment an individual doesn't fit into a neat, respectable aesthetic.
But Kelly refused to let her son be minimized by a label. Her relentless pressure, the forensic report she commissioned, and the suspect timeline she built finally forced the Fresno PD's hand.
It's about time.
6 weeks late, they yielded and opened a formal investigation. They assigned a new investigator, Sergeant Antonio Rivera. And according to the case files, he is actually doing the legwork now.
Okay, good.
He's pulling cellular data records, he's securing search warrants, and he's actively hunting for that white Kia Soul.
It's a hard-fought step forward, but, it's entirely manufactured by a mother's refusal to accept bureaucratic inertia.
Completely.
Kelly didn't just mourn her son, she stepped into the investigative void and became his final, most effective advocate. She ensured his story wouldn't end as a dismissed footnote on a flawed coroner's report.
She forced a massive system to course correct. And while they are still fighting for the full truth of what happened that hot night in July, Kelly has ensured that Spencer Irwin will not simply fade away.
And examining this case leaves us with a lingering thought about modern justice. I want you to think about the digital footprint we all leave behind. In Spencer's case, the physical evidence was literally washed away in the dirt, it was ignored by the authorities, and it was permanently erased by the cremation process.
Right.
The system completely failed the physical body. But what remains? A suggested Snapchat handle pinging in the ether, a cell phone's location data bouncing off a local tower, a stolen laptop lingering in the cache of a Facebook marketplace server. In a world where physical bodies can be so easily dismissed and erased by a failing bureaucracy, our digital ghosts might just be the only things left with the power to testify for us.
Our digital ghosts. That is definitely something to mull over. We'll leave you with that thought.